Just finished grinding this 109 gray crank, 10 under. It just cleaned up. It was very, very close, but man, it turned out absolutely beautiful. That's no polish, no nothing. That's right off that grinding wheel. So we're getting this baby dialed in. But yeah, just finished this 109 crank for one of our 3 109 engines we're going to do this winter. So this is the first of 3. Okay, I'm going to check thrust on my Graymarine 109 Continental F226. This is second time around. First time I had too much. I had about 15 thousandths end play. That's too much. We like to see 6 to 10, something like that. 6 to 8, 4 to 8, something. You know, I don't like it double digits. So if it's double digits now, as this thing wears, it's going to get worse. Not that there's a lot of thrust load on this thing, but the right way to do it is to bolt the hub up for the transmission. That bolts there. That way we've got good torque on the crank gear, because this is a separate thrust. There's 2 separate thrust washers on this front main, so there's shims in between here. So let's see if we got it right. Yeah, it's perfect. It's A6. Yep. That's good enough. That's what we want to see. So thrust is set. Now we can finish assembly. Okay, getting ready to put the oil pan on the 109 gray here. Just an interesting setup, an interesting note on these later ones. Later engines use an oil cooler. Well, back then, you know, the oil cooler, you know, modern stuff, everything's integrated now, but, you know, back then, look what the engineers did. They come up with this scheme where the oil, this is the oil out of the oil pump. This is obviously the suction screen. See, it's a crude homemade piece soldered together like, you know, your grandma's house plumbing. But anyway, the oil leaves the pump. It actually goes out of the engine to a fitting here, goes through the oil cooler, that's obviously not pictured yet, and then goes back into this fitting here, goes right back into the main oil galley. So basically all the oil leaves the engine, then goes back in, every ounce of it. So pretty interesting setup with a pipe and the fittings and stuff that they used back then. So just an interesting note. Okay, working on our gray 109. This is the oil cooler. I had used a torch to get it apart. There's so much corrosion that hopefully it's still good. We'll have to go through and clean that up and pressure test it and stuff. But look at all the corrosion. Where this is where the lake water goes. There's seaweed, there's all kind of leaves, you know. Christ, looks like it's been in the Titanic. So, wow. But you got to do this. You're going to overhaul this old stuff. You got to get all this stuff clean. I mean, this right here, this could ruin the new engine. So we'll get this cleaned up and check her out. Hopefully the cooler's still good. But every little bit you got to do. Okay, working on our Gray 109 here, and I just want to explain something about the gasket, the manifold gasket. The automotive or industrial engine had this extra bolt hole here, okay? Well, the marine manifold doesn't have provision for that. Well, the marine gasket, this was closed off, and the reason is, see, there's two, this was already in this engine, which means it's been apart before. Somebody has taken 3/8 Allen screws and put them in those two holes, which you can do, which we used to do before we had gaskets made. So you can actually use this industrial gasket and not worry about it. Now, you say, what the hell is the difference with those two holes? Well, those two holes go into water. So what would happen is you start the engine up, obviously you got water pump pressure, it would leak water out of those two holes. So I'm gonna leave those in there in this build, and that's not going to hurt anything. So like I say, this is the way we used to do it. So we will use the automotive / industrial gasket on this application. But it's something to note when you do these, because some of you guys don't have access to parts or have people make stuff. You can get away with it, and this is just what you have to do on these 6-cylinder engines. Okay, tested my oil cooler for our 109 job. Dumped her in the sink. Got our pressure tester on there. She's holding about 28 psi. It's actually been holding that for about 15 minutes before I dumped it in the water. But yeah, she's looking really, really good. Sweet. No bubbles. I'll leave her here for a little bit. Make sure she's good. Okay, we're getting our 109 ready to start. I'm just doing one of the last steps here, priming the engine. We've got a pressure primer here. I just put a couple quarts of oil in there, and I put air pressure in, and I turn this valve. So that's a good sign it's actually holding oil pressure. So as oil goes in, that gauge will drop. So like I say, I'm just feeding this with a quart or so oil. Here I can hear that quart's empty. You see how it's going? So that's good. So we'll close her off, and we're going to start this old girl up, see how she runs. All right, got our 109 running here. Set the timing, adjust the carburetor. Sounds really sweet. I can listen to that all day long.